Welcome to Mental Reset. My name's Ryan, former Deputy Manager of the NHS 111 service. I've got close to the mental health teams, teaching mental health first aid and mental health support. I'm a former Samaritan and I teach the mental health charity Mind. But the thing that I think qualifies me the most is I've had my own lived experience with mental illness, lived with it from about the age of 12. I'm an addict in recovery, and it was only 5 years ago I was sectioned under the Mental Health Act. And here with me today is my co-host, bringing a wealth of wellbeing experience, and you'll never forget his name, James Brown.
Hi, I'm James, and I'm an advocate for all things mental health and wellbeing. A couple of years ago, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. I was forced to make some big changes to my life and adopt some tools that I use on a daily basis now to make sure I manage that condition and alongside it my mental health. In this channel, we look to share those tools with you, so if anyone else has similar experiences, they know what they can apply or try to apply to help them navigate the same issues.
And that's the nature of the channel, right? It's awareness. It's sharing all these little things that we've done, that we've come across, that the great people have shared with me over the decade of reaching out, that we can do to protect and improve our mental health. The things that we don't get taught about. We don't have this stuff at school. So this page is all about the wealth of experience from the army we bring, the army of people who've bravely opened up and shared and talked about. You've had your journey, I've had mine, you've had yours as the watcher, as the viewer. And if we have the awareness, you might find that little thing that means everything to you to protect and improve, navigate life and get through, because life's hard these days, isn't it?
It is, and the big part of it is having those honest and open conversations, and we aim to do that around mental health and share with you what we know about mental health. As friends, we talk about mental health a lot, and we have some really good conversations. And I think the idea for the Mental Reset channel was born from the fact that why are we keeping these conversations private? They should be for everyone. They should be accessible for everyone. So if anyone needs to adopt or try some of the things that we use that we find that help, then it's accessible for everyone.
That's what it's all about. Share your lived experience in the right way with the right people. It might form part of their survival guide. Typically as men, we go through life and we face these difficult life experiences, life events, and we cope, we deal with it, we find our way through. But then we keep that stuff locked in our own heads because I don't want you to think I'm weak, I don't want you to think less of me, treat me differently. I've put it in a box, I've compartmentalised it and put it away. But we need to bring that out a little bit, because there might be someone going through, I don't know, one of the key life events that sadly we'll all face, loss, grief and bereavement. And someone's gone through that, and then someone else is going through that. And I'm never going to say how you feel, and it's the same, but there's some relatability there. There's some hope for me telling you, you know what, mate, I went through that, and it was terrible, but these are the little things that help me. And like you said about talking, if ever you want to talk about that, you want to share your head, you want to get it out, you even want to cry, then you can do that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think what you're saying comes down to community and connection as well. That feeling of that you're not going through something by yourself, you're not alone in what you're experiencing. Since I've started having open and honest conversations with people about how I feel and my mental health, I'm finding most people I speak to can resonate with it in some way, or vice versa. Most people who are talking to me, I've got similar experiences to them, and without having those open and honest conversations, we don't know who's going through what.
We don't know what someone's carrying, and as men we tend to carry it alone, we tend to keep it in, we hide it, we suppress it, but we know that suppression can result in crisis. And for me, suppression is different to distraction. Distraction can be a tool for a man, right? Let me put my thoughts in this, invest my mind in that. That's distraction, but suppression is when I feel like I shouldn't or can't talk about it, and it's just bouncing around in there, getting tangled up, and that's when it can result in some really difficult places.
Ryan, what does mental health mean to you?
How do you even define mental health? Right, it's everything. Physical health, mental health, we've got both. We've always had both. For me, I can't separate the two. Physical health and mental health go hand in hand. It's part of our overall health. For me, mental health is the recognition of what you're feeling inside in your heart and soul. Knowing that's okay what you're feeling. We're supposed to feel everything as human beings. And if things are going a little bit down that space towards poor mental health, and for me, with an anxiety disorder, mental illness, what are the strategies that I can use to rebalance? Because that's the thing about mental health. Typically, we think it's negative, right? Mental health, mental illness. But for me, it means living my life, showing up and living as much of the life that I want to live, because we're here for a good time, not a long time. What's mental health mean to you?
I mean, very similar, to be honest. My perception of mental health has changed since I've, experienced some poor mental health. And now, for me, I mean, I managed to keep it in check pretty well. I have an autoimmune condition, and sometimes when that has been triggered and I'm amidst a flare-up, I will suffer with low mood, and it feels like quite a depressive state. And I find applying certain tools in that situation really, really help me. So, previously where I didn't have these tools, I could be wallowing in that space for, weeks on end, months on end. But now I know it's probably going to last for 24 hours or so, and I know what I need to do to pull myself out the other side. So yeah, absolutely. It's the recognition of how you're feeling and allowing yourself to feel that way, but also having certain things available to you that work specifically to you to try and pull you out the other side.
Yeah, and being able to define how would we know where our mental health is at, right? Like the quality of your mental health, there's no blood test, x-ray or MRI scan, but there are things that we might recognise that could be indicators. So for me, mental health is your thoughts, how you talk to yourself, your feelings, your mood or your emotional state. It's your behaviours. Am I sleeping right for me? Am I eating right for me? Am I short and snappy with the people I care about? It can be your self-esteem, your confidence, how you see your life, your future, how you process stress, and how you deal with those difficult life events. So we've all got it. We're all on a measure. Mental illness at one end, I'm amazing, I'm great, I'm fantastic at the other end. And all these little things we might notice, we could be proactive, not reactive, and all the little things we can do to kind of rebalance. And when I say little things, remove the word little. We often go, well, that's basic. But some of the things we can do to protect and improve it are fundamental parts of being human. Things like hydration, movement, daylight, not basics. Sleep. Do you know what I mean? These things are, I haven't got time to do that, or, this is just this. Remove the word just. If I just took my medication for my mental illness and did none of these things, I'm still going to be really unwell. It's still going to have a very real negative grip on my life. If I take my medication and do these things, you wouldn't know I've got a mental illness unless I told you. So for me, it's about getting back to some of the basics, but removing the word basic, recognising the power and value in the things we enjoy. Things we enjoy, as important for me as medication. Hobbies.
Yeah.
How you go about your business, how you spend time with people, how you, the hobbies that we, as men, we go, well, I haven't got time. I've got all these responsibilities. I'm holding the weight of the world up because I feel like I've got to be the provider. No, self-care isn't selfish. It's essential. There's times we need to not be the parent, partner or professional, and take time for us to recognise where we're at and what we can do about it if we need to do something about it.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think the perception that taking time for yourself and self-care is selfish is ridiculous, because the more time you put into yourself and to make sure you are the best version of yourself you can be, the better you show up for other people. So it's an investment not only into yourself but into all the people that you care about, looking after your own mental health.
That's it. If you can't get over that space as a man where you're doing it for yourself, because we can put ourselves last, right? We can still feel like we're the provider and protector. But if you don't want to do it for yourself, do it for the people you care about and care for you. If you struggle to be a bit vulnerable and talk about your own journey, maybe don't do it for you. Do it for your kids, your grandkids, your grandson. Pave the way for future generations where we can drive down that stigma and judgment around mental health as men, where we are able to talk about it. So tell me a bit more about your lived experience then. Like what significant life event have you faced that has had a negative effect on your mental health?
Yeah, so I was diagnosed with an autoimmune condition. And prior to that, I was suffering from symptoms of this disease for, probably a number of years. They started quite mild and then eventually got pretty intense. Those symptoms were chronic fatigue, exhaustion, joint pain, brain fog, the inability to kind of memory loss as well. I actually put it down to, I thought I was aging at an accelerated rate at one point.
Thought you were me.
I thought I was you. I thought it was just a part of getting old, and I put it down to that. Being a man, did everything I can not to seek any medical advice. I didn't want to go to the doctors. This is just part of life. Press through it. Man up and press through it.
Man up. Is that a star jump, man up? No one's ever shown me a man up.
I think you
can show me one now.
I don't think I can, because I don't think they exist. So
even grow a pair don't work for me because I had testicular cancer. I got one. If I grew a pair, I'd have three.
So yeah, eventually I did seek medical help. So I went through my company's medical,
employee assistance program, like the helpline number that work often provide, where you can get free counselling, therapy.
Yeah, and I did that, and I thought it was easy because that was a remote session, so it didn't involve me actually physically going to the doctors. Yeah. So I could do that, didn't inconvenience myself too much, and I didn't feel as vulnerable as well because I was, across the screen rather than in front of it.
Turn the camera off if you want, comfortably at home. It can make it easier, that practical element to a clinical assessment or appointment.
That's it. And where a lot of my symptoms would point to depression, because I was, feeling these symptoms for weeks on end, months on end, without any kind of escape from that, any kind of, coming out of that zone. If I told people how I felt, people would say that is just depression, blah, blah, blah. But actually speaking to this medical advisor, I was really, really lucky because I think often people will go and get medical help and because the NHS is, overworked and understaffed, they're real stretch. Quite often the default is to prescribe medication. I could have just been put in that category of, depression medication. But I was really fortunate that the doctor I spoke to recommended I got some physical tests done. I'd never had any physical tests done. It was an interesting experience. Blood works, I had a prostate exam. I did.
You know that?
I did. Yeah, it was. I don't want to have one again. But
not for me.
I'm glad I did. But the results of that is I had a very medical condition, an autoimmune disease called Hashimoto's hypothyroidism. And without going into detail with it, it's something I have to manage through lifestyle. So lifestyle changes. So when I got diagnosed, it took me probably the best part of 8 months to actually feel well again, because there's no cure for the disease. It's about managing the condition. And so what I had to do is to look at my life, to break it down and make some quite drastic changes. And those changes were sleeping, making sure I got 8 hours of sleep, making sure I managed stress, changing my diet completely. I went to gluten-free. I wasn't eating processed food or any refined sugars. I cut out alcohol. I'm not teetotal. I still enjoy a drink every now and then, but my default is I don't drink. I had to increase my exercise. But eventually, I started to feel well again. And around about the time where I felt like the scales had tipped in my favour, was about the same time as we had some real conversations about wellness and well-being. I tried Cambo for the first time on your recommendation. I got into breath work. And for me, those were, the catalysts in managing my physical condition, which in turn, kept my mental illnesses or mental troubles at bay.
Yeah.
And not everyone has that available or is aware of things like breath work, and so it's important that we have these conversations with you guys, and we share these experiences, so you might be able to tap into some of them.
Yeah, and that's where awareness is powerful, because you're right. Typically the trend we've seen in the UK is I go and see the GP. The GP has an average 8 minutes per patient, and in that time it's a fit note and it's medication. Now that might be the right journey of recovery for someone. We're never going to challenge a medical professional, but that might also be the wrong journey of recovery for someone. So having like the full blood profile done, knowing what's best for you, because someone might not want the time off work, the fit note. Like, what does work give us that could protect and improve our mental health? What would you say? How would work protect? How would it improve mental health, being in work?
I think it's something to focus on, isn't it? Yeah.
My thoughts are invested in something. I've got a purpose, I've got meaning, I've got belonging, the social interaction. So taking me out of that and putting me at home on my own, in my own head, on medication that is on average going to make me worse, like drive me down before it builds me up, before I feel better. You can see how that might be the right or wrong journey of recovery for someone. So finding a modern, forward-thinking GP, having the awareness to know this stuff, like your assessment, let's do a full blood profile. And there was someone I taught, and they're in a part of the world. I'm okay to share these stories, so I'm never going to tell you when, where, or who. But there's someone in a part of the world where there was very little natural daylight, and they were struggling with depression. They didn't recognise it as depression. It's low mood, it kind of crept in. They think they'd lived with a depression for a couple of years. Went and found a doctor, and the GP said, right, I'm going to give you time off work. He said, I don't want time off work. I want to be involved in work. Here's some medication, some antidepressants. I don't want them. And he carried on kind of struggling because he was a man who didn't want to go down that path. He went back to the GP, and he said, is there a GP in the surgery with experience in mental health? And they said, yeah, there is. Can I book in with this different GP? And like your journey, this GP said, you know what, I'm going to do some bloods. And this person was massively deficient in vitamin D, because they lived in a part of the world with less natural daylight. We get vitamin D from natural daylight. That supports our serotonin production and release. They now take huge doses of vitamin D, and they said they got better in about 2 to 3 weeks, almost overnight. And it was that simple little change. Now, unless they were aware of, let me have my bloods done. Let me ask the GP for bloods to be done. If they'd have gone down that path, in their words, of having the medication, having the fit notes, they said that would have made them worse, not better.
And there's one thing that I kind of had to do in my journey is had to become an advocate for my own health. Because, like I say, there's no cure for my disease. I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world either. By a long shot, it's you can live with it. But I had to do a lot of research into what will stop me or stop these flare-ups from happening, or stop these little dips, and so I had to really take my health into my own hands. I spent hours researching it. I was on YouTube, I was listening to podcasts, I was reading books about it, and I made my health the focal point, and I made the goal to manage my condition and live as a normal life as I possibly could, which I do now. And it's absolutely fantastic. So it's a really difficult period in my life, but I wouldn't change it. I absolutely wouldn't change it, because if I didn't go through that, I wouldn't be who I am now. I wouldn't have the same beliefs that I do now. I wouldn't be as resilient as I am now, and I wouldn't have grown through that period to become who I am now. And I've gone from a point where I was very low all the time to I'm a really happy person now. I find the joy in life that I didn't see at all. I was numb to pretty much any emotion when I was going through that. But now it sounds silly, but I'll just be driving down a country lane and something will just trigger this massive joy in me, and I just want to shout out and scream just because I'm happy. It's crazy how things can change.
That's it. That adversity, those difficult parts of our life. You know, the other side of that, there is more resilience potentially. You know, there is oxytocin, serotonin, dopamine, endorphins, all this stuff we're supposed to feel. Whereas if we typically suppressed it or escaped it or hid from it, didn't want to go on that journey of healing and wasn't willing to show up for that and feel that thing, then you wouldn't be where you're at now. You know, surviving to thriving, and like you said, it was worth going on that journey to get where you are now. Hard journey, terrifying journey. You know, lots of we met maybe 6 years ago when we first had a chat about this stuff, and am I right in thinking that was one of your lowest? It was during that time, like
no, absolutely was. You know, I think before that, my default would have been to close off and bottle up and not share it, and that was probably one of my first experiences of actually really sharing what I was going through with someone, and it helped massively. Like, you know, that for me was one of the key milestones of my journey to get my health back. You know, it took a long time to get to the diagnosis, to get to managing it, but that was the point where I thought, actually, I'm going to take some action. And from that action came the diagnosis, and then eventually the management. So that honest conversation that we were able to have kind of triggered something in me to take action. So
we hear that all the time, don't we? If you're struggling, reach out. You know, it's almost like a strap line in the world of mental health, but I think it's a two-way street. You know, be as okay as you can with reaching out, but we've also got to reach in. You know, we were kind of getting to know each other then, and we didn't really cross paths, right? We might meet at a meal or something every couple of weeks. But if we recognise someone in our world we care about, and there's been a change, something about them's off, we've got to be willing to reach in, especially in men, because, I'm all right, don't want to bother you, don't want to burden you. I need to kind of keep bringing it to you, going, you all right, mate? Are you sure? You know, asking twice with meaning and purpose. I'm only asking because I know you, and I've noticed this and I've noticed this, and I wouldn't usually expect to see that from you. So you were, you know, in a space where you could reach out, and it's great, because that's the right thing to do, is reach out. But also we've got to keep a check on our ride or dies, our Miller Lite friends, the 3am friends, you know, the ones you could ring at 3am and they'd answer, and the other friends wouldn't answer, or they'd be like, I've got work tomorrow. Like your 3am friends where you could write, and I'll be on my way, I'll be there in 10 minutes. Like, we've got to look after our circle, our wider circle, reach out, reach in, but we're willing to start a conversation, and we respect as men. That can be a really hard thing to do, really hard.
So I've explained a little bit about my journey through mental health. What about you? What's your experience?
I think it's best I don't talk about mine. I'll probably get sectioned again. my
Can you turn the cameras off for this?
Edit, censor. Look, growing up with a mental illness that I didn't know I had, you know, voices, thoughts, turn the light switch on and off 20 times, otherwise your parents would die. No one was speaking about mental health at the time. Definitely people weren't talking about anxiety disorders, and my diagnosis is obsessive compulsive disorder. People think that's about being neat and tidy and germ phobic. They're the behaviours for some, but it can manifest in loads of different spaces and subcategories. I've been housebound through ritualistic behaviours and sectioned as a result of that mental illness. But the thing that made it the worst overall was the stigma, the judgement, the bullying, the discrimination. Maybe that's what drove me to go on to be a pro MMA fighter. I mean, I've only had 2 fights. The one I lost is on YouTube. The one I won is nowhere to be seen. Typical. But no one's going to bully me anymore. I didn't have the awareness to know why I was going down that path, and I went down that path so extreme, you know, like steroid misuse and associating with, you know, dangerous people in dangerous situations. I basically wanted to create a persona of the bad guy, the stereotypical tough guy. Unless I had the awareness to know what I was going through, I was always going to go down that path. You know, I was always going to go, I don't know what I'm feeling, I don't know what's going on, but let me try and create this, repel the world, go away. So yeah, got sectioned as a result of that mental illness. And like you said with Hashimoto's, I'm never going to be cured of OCD, but I can live in recovery with it.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to have a detrimental effect on my life. And now I've got the awareness and the tools and the recognition. It's not as scary an illness as it used to be. Within that as well, I'm an addict in recovery, landed in Ibiza age 18, needed to escape from my head, found drugs, thought, brilliant, this is something that quiets my mind, gives me a bit of peace from myself. But that cycle of addiction brought as many problems as it temporarily relieved me from. And then I'm a big advocate of counselling and therapy, but it's about finding the right counsellor and the right therapist and the right therapy. I've had more bad counselling than good. You know, that person, the old-fashioned therapist, sit there with a clipboard, you know, all like prim and proper and formal. We don't connect. You don't resonate. You don't get me. Finding that right person that you can connect with and the right therapy, of which there are many, I'd never look back. I'd encourage anyone to do it. It's almost like the gym for your mind. And through that journey of seeing a therapist, I think I've been seeing him for about 2.5 years now. When you talk about your life, you unpack your life. And during that, they diagnosed me with ADHD and PTSD. And I teach this, but unless someone else validated it, like he said, oh, you know, that's PTSD, right? Post-traumatic stress disorder. I was like, well, he went, it is. And I'm like, oh yeah, maybe I need to give that a bit more respect, you know, that part of my life. And it's not about collecting diagnoses or categories. That was unintentional. You know, I didn't really want those diagnoses. I don't have to do anything with them, but these things they matter. And as men, we're good at getting on with it. We're good at dealing with it, coping with it. Oh, that'd be all right. Don't worry about it. No, this is big stuff.
Yeah, I know you say it's not about collecting the diagnosis, but sometimes when you get a diagnosis, it's good because it gives you something tangible to work with, right?
Yeah,
If there's research into that condition, you can identify what triggers are and remove those triggers. So, you know, it can be a positive thing getting a diagnosis.
100%. It depends what it means to that person. Some people like a diagnosis because they know what that tangible thing is and how to build a recovery around it. Some people don't want a label. They don't want to consider they've got an illness or a disorder. It's always person-centered, this stuff. There's no right or wrong, good or bad, which is why this channel will always be about awareness. We're never going to promote, we're never going to go, you should do this. It's about, here you go. Here's all the things that I've learned about in my 10 years of teaching mental health support. Here's all the things that you've tried, lived through. And, you know, we bring this army to this channel. Army of amazing, inspirational people over the 10 years who have opened up and shared things with me. Like, I've got the weight of that emotion on me, like, because this channel matters, but also that's not a bad thing. I've got the backing of those people, because trust me, the amount of things that have been shared, you know, when you're like, you've chose to share that with me, like, what a privilege that is. And to share that stuff, removing the person's name and the where and the when, but sharing some of that experience of men. Like, I think we've got a lot of knowledge between all of us, but we just keep it locked in our heads. So we've got to stop that. We've got to change that.
Yeah. It needs to get out there, doesn't it? We need to put it out there and, you know, for everyone to access. And we've got, actually, I know you mentioned about, you know, sharing anonymously some stories and stuff, but we actually have got some really good guests lined up as well to come onto the show. And you know, a couple of them you know personally and I don't know, and I know very little about their story, so I'm quite keen to hear it for the first time whilst we're recording, because I want to feel the full force on that. But, you know, from what you say, you know, some pretty impactful stories, and hopefully they will resonate with some people out there.
100%. That's it. This ain't scripted. There's no teleprompter. There's no me briefing you or list of questions hid behind the sofa. It's real, it's honest, it's authentic, it's vulnerable. You know, we've got some of the guests, got cage fighters on. We've got people who are in the armed forces for 20 years. We've got firefighters. Like, just, we've got some men where you think, well, you know what, if if they're allowed to show vulnerability, everyone can. And it really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if someone does boxing, ballet dancing, poetry, fight. It doesn't matter what the person looks like or does. But when certain men are able to go, you know what, I'll cry.
Yeah.
I've had a difficult, dark time, and I'm not ashamed to talk about that because it might pave the way for other people. That's what we want to be about on this, where everyone, no matter what you do, if you're a man, you might need help. You might need support. It's okay to open up. Back in the day, it was man up, grow a pair, don't bring shame on the family, don't talk about that. Now we've swung over to this other space. We can have all of it, the whole bandwidth, like the bandwidth of emotions we're supposed to feel. We need to be okay with vulnerability and crying. We can still be stoic and stereotypically strong and resilient and everything in between. We always needed the whole lot, not just space A or space B, and you apply that in a way you're comfortable. This is passion, not profit for us. This is a free space and a free resource to protect and improve men's mental health. So if you could please take a second to subscribe, like a video, help us keep on helping others, and share the videos if you think it could help anyone in your world.
Thank you for watching Mental Reset. Please show your support by hitting that like button, subscribing to our channel, and most importantly, sharing this channel with people that you know might benefit from this.